Ed Serwin with the USDA in Amarillo, Texas with the weekly box beef recap for week ending August 16th. The daily spot choice box beef cutout ended the week last Friday at $255.54, which was $4.91 lower than the previous week. There were 841 loads sold for the week in that daily box beef cutout, which was one of the biggest weeks in some time and was about 12% of the total volume. The comprehensive or the weekly average choice cutout, which includes all types of sales, was at $254.75, and that was $3.94 lower, and it followed the daily cutout downward. In fact, the Friday choice cutout and the weekly average are the closest that they've been in some time. However, the big news for the week was the total volume, which jumped almost 1,000 loads. The total reported box beef volume was 6,935 loads, which was 961 loads more than the previous week. The declining prices helped increase the total loads of box beef sold, which is very important as we approach that Labor Day weekend. Exports climbed a little, and they were at 572 loads, which were 77 loads higher than last week, but quite a bit lower than the 800 to 1,000 loads per week that we saw during much of the last couple of years. Box beef exports, as reported by the weekly comprehensive report, do not include variety meats, which are also a very important part of exports. However, since these box beef exports, which represent predominantly muscle cuts, are available every week, they give us a heads up prior to getting the actual monthly totals. The formula sales were almost the same as the previous week, and they were at 3,379 loads, which was about 49% of the total loads sold and only 16 loads less than last week. The out-front sales really jumped quite a bit, being over double the volume, and they were 1,225 loads, which was 695 loads more than the previous week. When you take a look at the black line in the graph, which is this year, you can see that we had been running way behind. However, this current spike, which is a normal seasonal event, was still about 500 loads behind the same week last year. However, it is quite an improvement over the last couple of months and due primarily to the recent declining cutout prices. When you look at the out-front sale items in detail, we can see that the single largest item was 1.5 million pounds of select brisket, which was priced very close to the current spot and formula prices. There was also slightly below 1 million pounds of various round and bottom sirloin products that were sold at roughly $10 to $40 below the current prices. On the positive side, there was almost 500,000 pounds of ribeyes and tenderloins that were purchased at $25 or more above the current prices. The 4-week moving average of box beef sales has followed the big seasonal drop in volume that we saw last year during July, then rebounded slightly, and it now appears like it is headed in a more sideways pattern, pretty much like last year. Earlier in the year, we followed last year's sales volume very closely and even exceeded it at times. The latest national steer carcass weight for a week ending August 2nd was at 874, which was 4 pounds higher than the previous week, and that compares to 866 pounds last year. Earlier in the year, we kept pretty much in step with last year, but have recently begun to increase in a much more accelerated path. Last year we peaked in late November at 879 pounds, so it looks like we could really exceed that, which will put much more product on the market. Thank you. This has been Ed Serwin with the USDA in Amarillo, Texas.